So today we're going to conclude the ratio and proportions lecture. This is a relatively short presentation, about a half a dozen slides or so, because you also have your exam that's due today. So this is for Friday, May 15th, and then starting next week we'll be looking at percents. Alright, so this is kind of entailing a little bit more of the word problems, and then also looking at kind of some mixed numbers, I guess. Alright, sorry, I'm just drinking my cup of coffee here. Alright, so we are looking at, if you go to the store and you buy 12 eggs, and they cost about $1.49, okay, for a dozen eggs. So you want to know how much then do 18 eggs cost, okay? So one kind of sort of simple way, I guess, is if you want to like divide $1.49 divided by 2, right? Because you're adding another 50% basically. That would be like a kind of a quick, dirty way of doing it. So let's say it was like $1.50. Half of that would be 75 cents. So you'd add like about $2.25. As you can see, we're pretty close here at the end, $2.24, being that the eggs are $1.49. But the true way of doing it is setting it up using proportions. Okay, so we want to use the proportions. Remember, are like equal ratios. Okay, so what 12 eggs is to $1.49 is equal to what 18 eggs are to what. Okay, so that's basically what you're looking at. Okay, so you want to set up the problem so that the same type of elements or units or whatever you're using are directly across from each other. So you have your 12 eggs equals your 18 eggs, and then your other fraction, your first fraction, $1.49 over, or under rather, equals the missing amount, or x. Okay, so make sure that you have your units across from each other. Alright, so then all you really have to do is cross multiply and divide. So you're going to cross multiply your 18 eggs times $1.49. Okay, so that's going to give you $26.82. And then you divide that by 12, okay, by the number 12, and then that's going to give you $2.24 or $2.23, rounding this up, rounding the 3 up to a 4 because this is 5 or above, and so you get the cost of 18 eggs of being $2.24. So I think that's pretty straightforward. The book does have examples, and we'll be talking about a couple more examples here too. Alright, so here is a different type of a problem. Okay, sometimes these problems like to throw in some random numbers that have nothing really to do with your solving your problem. Okay, like for example this one, 12% has nothing to do with any of your calculations, so it's just kind of one of those random numbers, I guess, thrown in there to mix you up. So the lab mixes a 12% solution for the physician. Now keeping in mind that this problem, it doesn't have anything to do with the calculation, but further down the road when we actually do drug calculations, percentages will, and I'll teach you how to do that. Okay, so we have a 12% solution has a ratio of 3 to 25. Okay, this ratio includes, so what this is saying is that for 3 grams of powder are in a 25 ml solution. Okay, so the 3 to 25. And so remember, when we go to rewrite this out in a fraction, the number that's on the left is going to be on the top. Okay, so then it's going to be 3 grams over 25 mils. It means the exact same thing, it's just a different way of writing it so we can solve the problem. So that is asking us how many grams of powder then will be added to a 65 ml solution. So you still have this 12%. Okay, so your percent solution hasn't changed because you're having these equal ratios or these proportions. So 3 grams to 25 mils is the same percent strength as how many grams to 65 mils. Okay, so kind of common sense right here would tell you that this number is going to be bigger than this number, right? Because we're working with more of a solution. Okay, we're over doubling it. Okay, so we're working with 25 mils here. Afterwards, for the second part, we're working with 65 mils. So we should know that our grams are going to be at least double, more than double. Okay, but this is how we're going to set it up. Okay, so we have the 3 to 25. So again, 3 over 25. And then we're solving for x. So we're solving for grams. So that's going to be, grams are across from each other. So our x is our grams to our 65 mils. So again, cross multiply, take 65 times 3. That's going to give us 195. And then we're going to take 195, put that in the house, divide it by 25. And that's going to give us 7.8 grams. So a 7.8 grams of powder will be used to mix 65 mils of a 3.25 solution, meaning they both have a 12%. Okay, so they're basically equal. You're just working with more volume. So indeed, your 7.8 grams is more than twice as much as 3. Okay, so that's why I always say, kind of, sometimes step back and see the forest through the trees. Big picture. Alright, so now we're looking at a little bit more complex. Mainly with this one, we're just working with decimals. So that's why we've had all this practice with decimals, because a lot of medications are definitely involving decimals. So again, we're solving for x. So we have a 0.25 milligrams to 0.8 mil, okay, is equal to a 0.125 milligrams to a how many mils. Okay, so we're going to set this up again, putting the milligrams across from each other and the mils across from each other. Okay, so our left side here of this part goes on the top, so the 0.25 goes on the top, the 0.8 goes on the bottom, and this should be really equal here to our unknown, okay, of 0.125 milligrams. We know that, but we're trying to solve this time for mils. Okay. So again, I kind of look at this and I go, so this is an equal ratio or proportion. These are equal, okay, as far as like concentration or whatever. So I'm comparing. What do I notice? What happened here when I went down from 0.25 to the 0.125? Hoping it kind of jumps out at you. It's half, okay, it's half. So it gives me a pretty good idea that this x might be half of this, okay, because we're comparing these things. It's kind of like comparing 1/2 is equal to 2/4, basically. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and again cross multiply, okay, so now we got 0.8 times 0.125, and remember when we do the multiplication with these decimals, we have to kind of remember that we have where we're going to move the decimal for the answer, rather, sorry, is going to be however many place values over from the right to the left, okay? Obviously there's some zeros ending over here because we only have one place value, but we could try to work it out here really quick. So if we did this, let me see, do this some way. Let's see, so if we had the 0.125, okay, I actually really don't care about that zero. I might just go like this, forget about that. Okay, so I got 0.125. So I've got 3 decimal places over here. Now I'm going to multiply this by 0.8. Okay, so I've got one place value here, 1, 2, 3, and the decimal 1. Alright, so when I do the multiplication, 8 times 5 is 40. And 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20, and 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10. Okay? Alright, so I have to move 4 place values over, because 3 plus 1 is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 0.1. Right there, 0.1. Okay. Alright, so now that's just this part of it. Okay, that's just the multiplication part. Okay, so we have to, this is where it gets kind of tricky, where people think, okay, now what do I do again? Now what I do? Okay, so that part has to be divided by the 0.25. So at first it's going to look kind of weird. You're like, wait a minute, I should be using the bigger number. No, this is your first number. Okay, this is actually where I want to tell you something here in just a second. So, so that's the first. So that's in the house. Okay, and I'll tell you something kind of. Now we have to divide this. Now I'm okay with you doing your homework if you get this all set up and you double check it with your calculator, okay? So let me go back to this. So sometimes this is where people get tripped up, okay? So this is what I tell them to do. If you're really uncertain when you get to this point, you're like, crap, now what do I do? So I know that this is one of my numbers to work with. This is what I figured out when I multiplied. Now which number do I divide into which? Sometimes I'll do something that I'm really familiar with. Okay, so I will do like, let's see. Actually, maybe I should do something a little bit simpler. Hold on. I'll do something like 1/2 equals 2 over what? Okay, so this is the same type of problem. Okay, so if I were to figure out this one, okay, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, I'm going to take the 4 and divide it by the 1, so I get 4. What I'm trying to say is that this number here is or the number that the product of what you multiplied these two numbers is going to go in the house, and this is going to be the divisor. Okay. All right. I hope that made sense. I think I had other examples that I would use too. Maybe I would go with like I'm going to kind of ramble here for a minute because I haven't thought about this too far ahead till just now as I'm talking about it. So again, like 2/4, and let's say I did, let's see, again, I'm trying to solve for x. My x is down here. So I do 4 times 4 is 16. Divided by 2 would be 8. Okay, so again, the 16 being in the house. So whatever you figured out as your product from multiplying that number is going to be in the house. Hopefully that's not too terribly confusing. But I always kind of work with numbers that I am more familiar with, that I go, okay, well that makes sense. So that way I know where to put them. Alright, so here's where they get a little hairy. Okay, so this is actually in your textbook at the bottom of page, no wait, this is actually in your textbook. This is page 145. I'm trying to find my notes. I just really look at it here. Okay, so here's from page 145, and then we actually have another problem from 145, the bottom part on the next slide. So if you get out your textbook and look at page 145, so again, we're looking at 1/8. The relationship of 1/8 to 1/2 is the same as, okay, so this is like another, like a double kind of ratio thing going on here. That's not a typo. Okay, the 4 dots basically. is the same as the relationship of 1 to what? 1 to over what? Okay, so before you get too freaked out about it, you just look at this and let's just work with the left side first. Okay, so this is the same as like how you would set up whole numbers. Okay, your left part of the equation would be on top over here. Okay, divided by, again, your 1/2. Okay, so the 1/8 over the 1/2. Okay, and then you do the same thing with this part of the equation on the right side of these double dots. The 1's going to be on top, and x is what we're solving for. Okay, so we're going to do the same story. We're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So we're going to take 1/2 times 1, which they did right here, equals 1/2. Okay, and then that number divided by the top. Okay, so 1/2 divide 1/2 by 1/8. Okay, so it gets important here because you've got to know which one is first and which one is second, because that determines which one you're going to flip. Okay, so 1/2 was your product, so that would be sort of like in the house, but that's your first one when you're looking at it from a left to right problem. Okay, so then you have 1/2 divided by the 1/8. Okay, then that's when you're going to flip. Okay, you're going to go ahead and flip, and then you're going to multiply straight across, so you're going to have 8 over 2, and 8 over 2 equals 4. Okay, so it's basically saying the relationship to 1/8 to 1/2 is the same as the relationship as 1 to 4. That's what it's trying to say in a very complicated way. Alright, so I kind of drew this one out a little bit. This is another type of problem. This is looking a little bit different because it has a decimal involved. Okay, so what the book says, the first thing you should do is then you should look at this, and I'm apologizing because I had a hard time getting a line to underline here. It just went underline when I was trying to type it out. It brought the line way too low to make sense. So all I'm doing right here is I'm rewriting this. Okay, so I've got the 1/16. Okay, that's on my top part of my division, my line here. Okay, keeping in mind these are two separate lines. Okay, it's a little sloppy here, but all right. So those are two separate lines, and then it recommended that you take the 1 6/10, because that's what that is in a decimal format, is 1 6/10. Okay, then you go ahead and write that in a fraction. Okay, so you're going to convert this 1.6 into a fraction of 1 6/10, and then you go ahead and do the same because you have the double colons here, so you're comparing these. So the 1/8 again goes on the top over the x because we're solving for x. All right, so we want to multiply these two across. Remember, multiplication is straight across. What do you want to do with this? Okay, we've kind of messed with this number a couple times now. We've changed it from a decimal to a fraction. Right now it's a mixed number. Okay, if you are looking at your textbook at page 145 on the bottom, you'll see that they went ahead and they changed this then to an improper fraction. So they went ahead and did the 10 times the 1 equals 10 plus 6 equals 16. So they've changed this number then to 16 over 10. So it's easier to multiply. It's easier to work with in this format. Times 1/8. Just like normal multiplication. Okay. So then that's going to give us 16. That's why I went ahead and type part of it because I know I take up so much room trying to write. So we got 16 over 80. Alright, so that's what we got when we multiplied these two. Okay, that's our product. So that's going to be divided by, okay, that's going to be divided by the 1/16. Okay, but so before we go to the next step here, one thing that the textbook did, and this is something you're welcome to do, is they reduced this so it's not such a big number to work with. Okay, so they went ahead and reduced this to, okay, 8 can go into both of these. Okay, so 8 goes into 16 2 times, 8 goes into 80 10 times, so they went ahead and changed that to 2 tenths, and that's fine. Okay, as long as you get the right answer in the end, I don't care what you do. Okay, so again, keeping in mind this is going to be divided by the 1/16. So now you have the 2 tenths divided by the 1/16. I'm drawing this out a little bit. I know most of you should know what we should do next, but I'm just going to clarify that's where we're at. Okay. Oops. Getting a little too fussy here. Okay, so we know what we have to do now. I'm hoping you're telling me that we're going to have to flip the second one. Okay, we're going to flip the second one and then treat it as a multiplication problem. So then it's going to be 2 over 10. You guys can figure it out before I get it all written. Over 16 over 1. Okay, hopefully getting a little bit better here. So we got what? 32. 32 over 10. Okay. Or we reduce this. If you leave it like this, this is your x, okay? I will, be okay with it. However, I really like to see you, this is an improper fraction. I really would like to see you put this down to a mixed number. So I say, how many times does 10 go into 32? 3. And then I have this 2 left over. 2 tenths. And then I'm hoping that you recognize this can be further reduced to 3 and 1/5. Okay, so this is also all written out here on page 145 to reflect back to if you're having a hard time following my scribbling, but I try to explain it a little bit more as we go along. All right, I do believe, I'm trying to think, did we do? Yeah, I think I have one more. Maybe not. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I have one more blank slide. Oh, I know what I want to do. I want to do a homework problem with you. Okay, so this is out of our homework that is due on Monday, and this is problem number 4 on page 152. Okay, so hopefully we're getting kind of good at this. So we got 1/2. I'm not getting good at that, but so we got 1/2 to 1/2 to 4. Sorry, glare on my page. Okay, that should be my little colon there. Equals 1/3. It's quite the line. Oh my goodness. Bear with me. Just trying to make fine movements. It's crazy with this mouse. Okay, 1/3, and our colon is x. That's what we're trying to solve for. So, how are we going to set this up? I hope you're saying that my 1, if I'm looking at this left side here, okay, we always work left to right, I'm going to put this 1/2 on top, right? Gosh darn it. Okay, so we have this 1/2 on top over the 4. Okay, to 1/3 over x. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply 4 If it makes you feel better, we can put a 1 over this, times 1/3. Okay. Multiply straight across, we should get 4 over 3. Okay. Okay, so that's what I got. I'm multiplying these two. Now I have to divide it by the 1/2. So I'm going to say, I'm going to turn it a little bit smaller, 4/3, 4 over 3, divided by 1/2. So we should know what we have to do next. We have to flip the second one. So now we should have 4 over 3 multiplied by 2 over 1. So we should get 8. Sorry guys. 8 over 3 should be our x, but we can change that 8 over 3 to what? Okay, that's an improper fraction. This is 8 over 3. So I know that 3 can go into 8 2 times. Okay, so I have 2, that's my whole number, and then so I have 2 left over, because I have 8, 3 times 2 is 6, 2 left over, so it should be 2 2/3 should be my x. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And I just double checked, and yes, that is the correct answer, because I have worked all these problems. I have a notebook where I've actually done all these problems that I've assigned you, written them all out myself, so I can explain them hopefully a little bit better. Alright, so this will be due then. This isn't too many problems. You have like 20 problems that are due on Monday, May 18th. They are going to be, let's see, I already wrote them up. So you got page 144, 1 through 5, and then page 152 through 153, 1 through 15. Now keep in mind, it's okay to double check your work with a calculator, and also look at the back of the book, okay? Especially for these post-tests and that, they are back there. Okay. However, I challenge you to figure them out, then go back and see if you're right. Okay. Some of them have done a pretty good job of doing the step-by-step for you to kind of explain it, but you know, see if you can figure out where you made your mistake. Okay. So that's why I've been referring for this last set of problems that was due today for Friday to look at your back of your book, because I think it was page 385, because they had a really good step-by-step explanation for the post-test, I believe. All right, we'll see you next time.